Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my first impressions on the Monochrome Manga Club selections for the month of November. So the Monochrome Manga Club is an in-real-life manga club that I host where we read 2 first-in-a-series selections, and we're currently doing 2 full-series reads. So the selections for November were Beyblade X Volume 1. This one is by Homura Kawamoto and Hikaru Muno, art by Posca Demizu, and this one's published by Viz, rated all ages. We also read Volume 1 of The God-Slaying Demon King. This one is by Ezo Gingi Tsune, art by Pig Third, and character designs by Teddy, published by Square Enix Manga, rated older teen. And then the 2 series reads that we are currently doing are Haikyuu by Haruichi Furudate. We read volumes 37, 38, and 39. And then we are also reading Tokyo Revengers by Ken Wakui. We read volume 27 and 28. This one's published by 7 Seas, rated older teen. Haikyuu's rated teen, published by Viz. So, because this is a first impressions video, I will not be sharing my thoughts on either of these series. But if you'd like to hear what I thought of them, you can definitely check out my Desus 19 Diaries. So, as far as Volume 1s go, let's go ahead and start with Beyblade X. So, this is a very kind of nostalgic franchise, I would say, in my house. My daughter grew up really enjoying Beyblade. I'm not too familiar with all of the different seasons of Beyblade, but I definitely was a lot more invested in the very first one. But in any case, in this particular story, we're following this guy right here. And he enters a Beyblade competition and gets utterly destroyed and then ends up losing his teammate. His teammate walks. And so he's all alone, and he really wants to make it to the top of the X Tower, which is kind of like where all the pros are. And so he's kind of, I wouldn't say down in the dumps, but he's trying to figure out what to do. And he comes across another blader who is wearing a mask, who ends up being this guy. And turns out this blader is actually pretty famous, which is why he's wearing the helmet. And he was actually at the top of X Tower, decided to retire, and is now trying to work his way back up to the top. So we kind of follow them, getting to know each other, competing together, and then they meet up with this girl right here, and they end up forming a team together, and we follow them on their journey to trying to make it to the top of X Tower. So reading this felt very familiar to me. It definitely felt like I was watching an episode of any of the animes. Even at the beginning, when they have that classic "Let It Rip" slogan when they start the Bay battles, I could hear it in my head like it was in one of the animes. And so I really enjoyed reading this. Like I said, it has kind of a nostalgic feel to me because it does feel very familiar as any other like Beyblade series that I have had contact with. That being said, the Bay battles are, very exciting, and it's something where there's lots of movement, right? And I've said before that I much prefer when things have lots of movement in it to watch it animated, because it just brings that whole like scene to life. And especially with Beyblade in general, sometimes the Bays can have like their spirits right inside, and the spirits will come out and battle each other, and it just gives it that extra level of excitement. And I kind of feel like I lost a little bit of that excitement in the Bay battles that are presented in this volume, because I'm not like visually seeing the movement. Like I can see it in my head, but I guess I'm not just like imagining it as well as I think it would be if it was in an animated form. So while I enjoyed this one, I definitely want to continue the story. I think what I'm going to do is look for it in anime. I believe there is one. Unfortunately, I believe it is English dubbed. And I say unfortunately because I believe the opening song to this is done by Lark and CL, and I really enjoy their music. And so because it's English dubbed, I believe they also changed the opening theme for what we can see here in America. And so I'm looking forward to experiencing that in its animated form. And then I think I'll make a decision how I'm going to continue after I experience that. But I will be continuing with this team. I find their dynamics to be very interesting. They've had some really interesting battles, and they've met some interesting opponents already, some of which they're going to meet again later on their journey, I believe. So really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I'm looking forward to watching their journey as they try to reach the top of X Tower. Now, for the God-slaying Demon King. This one is about a demon king who many centuries ago had a big epic battle with the demon god. And in that battle, he ends up dying. But then several centuries later, he reincarnates as a human. So we kind of follow him now trying to get used to life as a human and seeing what life is like, find the demon god again and kill him for good. So I do feel like this volume gave a really good kind of exploration of the kind of summary of this volume. But at the same time, the story itself, while I was reading it, was interesting and entertaining, but it didn't really compel me to want to read more about this Demon King turned human's journey to, trying to kill the demon god forever. He does meet some people and a creature along the way, and I thought the creature was ultra cute and kind of gives him some insight as to what had happened while he had been getting to the point where he could reincarnate. And I did find that with the situation that came up in the volume that he handled it very interestingly. But like I said, the story from this first volume is not really compelling me to read anymore. It kind of felt familiar. It's definitely fantastical. You've got people in here and creatures that have abilities. And so all of that, is your typical fantasy type story. But I'm not really compelled to read more about this Demon King on his kind of journey of revenge. And so, yeah, the art style was interesting. Like I said, I found interest and entertainment in this story, but I'm not really feeling the need to read anymore. I don't know. If you've read this one, let me know if you've read past this volume, what your thoughts are on it. Because for me, this volume just didn't have anything to hook me. And so, yeah, I ended up giving this one 3.5. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this one yet. We'll see if I think about it, I guess, a little bit more. And if it stays on my mind, then I'll probably pick up another volume. But if not, and I don't hear anybody in the comments tell me that it gets much better and much more compelling a story, then I'm probably going to let this one go, which is fine. Because, I've got tons of series to read and complete. But I enjoyed this one, and I ended up giving it a 3.5. So, with that being said, those were my thoughts on our first in a series selections. Before I let you go, I do want to let you know what we will be reading in the month of December. So, in December, we will be continuing our series reads of Tokyo Revengers, which we will be completing Tokyo Revengers in December by reading the final omnibus, which has 3 volumes in it. So it's volumes 29, 30, and 31. I'm a little bit nervous about how this story is going to end, but I'm also very excited to be completing the series and finally seeing how everything turns out. And then we will also be continuing our series read of Haikyuu by reading volumes 40, 41, and 42. If you know this series or have watched it, we are in the middle of the Kamomedai game, so a very interesting game. Really am enjoying my read-through or my reread through of this series with the group. And then for our first in a series reads, we're going to be reading volume 1 of Ramen Wolf and Curry Tiger. This is story and art by Emboss, published by 7 Seas, rated older teen. So this one says, food, fur, and friendship meet your new favorite food critics. A chubby wolf named Mitajiro and a ripped tiger named Yanagi Kagetora. Kagetora used to eat to live, but that changed when he met Jiro, who lives to eat. Jiro is more than happy to help his striped friend explore the restaurants and delicacies tucked within their city, and he enjoys all their finds with great relish. There's nothing better than a hot meal to bring two animal people together in this deliciously illustrated story. So I thought this looked really cute. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be light and fun with lots of food, and I think it's going to be a really nice way to end our reads for this year. And it's a little bit different from the things that we've been reading lately, so I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I am not quite sure why it's rated older teen. I did take a flip through of this because I do like to vet titles that I'm having for our club, because we do have a couple of people from time to time who are like 15 and younger. And so, yeah, if it's not in that particular volume, it probably has to do with something that comes up later. But from what I could see, that volume should be probably more rated teen, I think. But again, that was just on my skim through. And then for our final first in a series read for the 2025 year, we're going to be going with a recommendation from one of our Manga Club members. So a couple of our Manga Club members have actually recommended this title a few times, and I finally decided to go ahead and pick it up. We're going to be reading Moriarty the Patriot, Volume 1. This one has storyboards by Ryosuke Takeuchi, art by Hikaru Miyoshi, and it's based on the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I do not have a copy of this personally because we will be reading it on the Shonen Jump app. But the summary says, before he was Sherlock's rival, Moriarty fought against the unfair class caste system in London by making sure corrupt nobility got their comeuppance. But even the most well-intentioned plans can spin out of control. Will Moriarty's dream of a more just and equal world turn him into a hero or a monster? In the late 19th century, Great Britain rules over a quarter of the world. Nobles sit in their fancy homes in comfort and luxury, while the working class slaves away at their jobs. When young Albert James Moriarty's upper-class family adopts two lower-class orphans, the cruelty the boys experience at the family's hands cements Albert's hatred of the nobility he was born into. He asks the older of the two boys, who has a genius mind and a killer instinct, to help him rid the world of evil, starting with Albert's own family. So I'll say that the reason that I was so hesitant to read this one is because I'm not a big fan of historicals. I normally don't get along with historicals very well, and obviously Sherlock Holmes is a very big historical title, and I just had no interest. I'm going to be honest, I had no interest. But the two Manga Club members that have suggested that said that it's very interesting, and so I'm looking forward to checking this one out, seeing if I was wrong about this series, and then discussing the read with the Manga Club members, especially the two that recommended it, because they really think I'm going to enjoy this. And so I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. And so those are going to be our reads for the end of the year. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of these volumes or series and what you thought of them. Again, if you have experience with the God-slaying Demon King, I'd really be interested to hear your thoughts, especially if you've continued past the first volume, because I'm a little disappointed. I'm not more compelled to continue that one. But in any case, if you are interested in reading any of the titles with us and would like to share your thoughts with us, you can always do that by commenting below and letting me know your thoughts there, or you can join our Discord, which is listed down in the description box below. If nothing else and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a rainbow emoji for this character here, who is actually named Rainbow, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.